Hi, welcome to the first episode of Heart of the Matter and the Bowdoin Cable Network. I'm your host, Gabriel Frankel. Heart of the Matter brings you the college's first ever interview talk show segment featuring a variety of conversations with interesting people in and around the Bowdoin community. It is our goal for this show to serve as a medium for thought-provoking conversation about a variety of topics for our viewers to engage in. We're pleased to welcome today our first guest, Professor Tricia Welsch. Tricia Welsch is a professor of cinema studies and the former chair of the department, having taught here since 1993. She's taught a variety of courses from History of Film 1 and 2, the films of Alfred Hitchcock, Cultural Difference in Crime, Images of America in Film, and that's just to name a few. Her definitive biography on the 20th century star, Gloria Swanson, was released last year and received excellent reviews from the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post. Professor Welsch, thank you for joining us today.
I'm very flattered to be your guest. Thank you.
Congratulations. After 20 plus years of the college, you begin this school year for the first time as a full professor.
Thank you.
Ever since you joined Bowdoin in 1993, you've been instrumental in helping to make the now Cinema Studies department grow tremendously for the student body. It became an approved minor in 2001 and an interdisciplinary program in 2012. What are you most proud about in your contribution to the program, and what have you learned from it?
I'm definitely most proud of working with the wonderful students that I've had over the years. They've made the job fabulous and wonderful and interesting every single day. Anything that I've been able to do with them has made me smarter and made me happier. So I guess specifically one of the things that I work on really hard with my students, and I'm proud of hearing their happy results, is that I work on their writing. I really do a lot with drafts and revisions and asking people to think seriously about what they're trying to say and in what voice. And it's really exciting to hear from alumni that makes a difference in their professional lives afterwards. So probably that's what I'm happiest about.
Must be a great feeling. A select group of professors have been teaching at Bowdoin this long. How have your impressions of the college changed over the years?
I always say now I'm part of the problem. Bowdoin's gotten bigger. Bowdoin's gotten more diverse. That's been a really, really important and wonderful change. The biggest change that we've made that has made a real signal difference is getting rid of the fraternities and moving to a residential house model of student life, which I think has been a very, very good change. Move toward interdisciplinarity, and there's a lot of changes that we've made in the past years while retaining a core that is recognizably the same. I feel like a lot of the core values that I came to know at Bowdoin from my earliest years are still totally in place, and that makes a really good difference here.
This year you're teaching British films and the films of John Ford, classes you've taught before. How do you stay personally motivated by the material and keep the curriculum fresh?
I watch all the movies again as my students are watching them, for sure, so that I have a fresh response. And I love the movies, and that makes a huge difference. So hearing new people's responses to them all the time really changes things. I'm different every time I come to them too. So, I one time will watch a film that I'm not that crazy about on this iteration, and the next time I'll love it again, and I'll know why I loved it. And it's always fun, it's always fresh. If anything is worth seeing, really worth seeing, it's worth seeing more than once. And seeing it more than once, you get a lot of new ideas. So you also keep up reading in your field. I read very, very widely and consistently, and I see the movies that come out. So, you can put things into a historical context, which is important for me, and you can see things anew if you keep up with your field. So that's a crucial thing, and everybody here does that. We all keep abreast of what's getting published that produces new ideas, that provides us with new ideas and new ways to bring the material to the students. The other thing that's cool about teaching the courses that I teach is that things are rediscovered. So old material comes forward. There's film restorations we can look at, and that gives a real new shot of energy and a lot of new juice to a class. So I'm excited about that.
On the subject of John Ford films, there's been a lot of criticism these days of his portrayal of Native Americans in his critically acclaimed westerns. What relevance does his material have for you today in your discussions about culture at large and the responsibilities of filmmakers as artists?
Well, like any filmmaker worth his salt, Ford was a complicated man, and he had complicated and changing ideas about things over many years. I think we benefit when we study one filmmaker closely and can really trace the changing, within his values and his practice over the years. I don't think it's fair or reasonable to dismiss Ford's Westerns are all Westerns out of hand because they have certain outmoded values. We learn from them about history. We don't want to be condemned to repeat history, right? We learn from them about the attitudes, the values, the practices of the past. And frankly, Ford was considered in his time a champion of a number of native tribes, for whom he provided significant employment. He didn't have white actors, mostly didn't have white actors dressed in red skin. He employed a lot of natives and was close to them personally for many years. Did an airdrop of food in when there was a bad, snowstorm in the region one year. I mean, I'm not going to defend him entirely personally, but I think he was a complicated man, and we can't just erase the complications of the past because we wish that things had been simpler and better for more people.
After Quentin Tarantino released his spaghetti western, Django Unchained, he said about John Ford, "To say the least, I hate him." He went on to describe a scene and uncredited role for John Ford in The Birth of a Nation, where he plays a Klansman.
When I saw Django Unchained, I was thrilled because I knew I could use it when I taught Birth of a Nation. For years you show Birth of a Nation, you think, oh God, here we go again, this racist masterpiece, racist masterpiece. You have to deal with it in the history of film. You can't sidestep it. I don't know how my colleagues who sidestepped that film in their film history class managed to cover the big gap that is left. But I knew that I could offer the gathering of the Klansmen, the comic scene where they're buffoons and stooges and fools and idiots in Django Unchained as a great corrective showing the continuity of film history. So, the fact that John Ford was an extra as a, uncredited young man in Birth of a Nation, he was learning his trade. He was getting, feeding himself as he moved to Hollywood. But the fact that Tarantino is still echoing that film and responding to that film years later, is just wonderful for film history. It makes engaging that material easy and fun in the classroom.
College tuition continues to increase nationally. Global workforce for recent college graduates is becoming more competitive. Employers are demanding practical, advanced skills from recent college graduates. In your opinion, is a liberal arts education still meaningful?
The liberal arts helps people think their way through problems, the kinds of problems that they will encounter all their lives. A liberal arts training is strong and integrative. It involves you thinking across disciplines and thinking precisely, writing precisely, learning to examine problems from all angles. Those skills are entirely relevant, always have been, always will be.
Established people in the film industry advise students that they should focus more on film production in colleges rather than film studies. I have a feeling you disagree. How would you categorize the film studies concentration for the job market?
I don't actually disagree. I think there's a strong place for practice and creative self-expression in the liberal arts curriculum. We just don't really have it very fully integrated into the curriculum yet at Bowdoin, and I would very much like to see us move in that direction. We have some strong new young colleagues who are trying to move us there and trying to integrate those courses. We've had a very happy experience this year so far with our coastal studies scholar David Conover, who's a practicing filmmaker. We need to grow in this direction, and so I don't feel any need to justify film study as something that is separate from film practice. I think doing those two things together makes everybody better and smarter at both things.
Talking about great filmmaking, once upon a time a film review for the New York Times, or the words of Roger Ebert, seemed to matter a lot to the average moviegoer. But in 24-hour news cycle and the advent and growth of social media, everyone seems to have something to say about films, from Facebook and Twitter posts to YouTube channels. How does someone sort through this never-ending commentary and find something that's worth seeing?
That's a good question. It's a bigger job than it used to be, but that only means that more people are participating in the conversation. It's the same with book reviews. If you read books avidly, I'm a big reader, you also want to read book reviews, and you get to know the reviewers that you like. So following some reviewers is a good way to do it. I don't really like the thumbs up, thumbs down mode of it's good or it's bad. I don't like the numerical rating system. I like ratings that talk through, and reviewers that talk through why they like and what they approve. And that requires a little bit more time spent if you want to read reviews and find out that way, that requires a little more of your time spent. But once you identify the reviewers, you can follow them, and you can see as your tastes go along with theirs or change. The other thing you can do is just keep following the people you already like and see who they say they like and who they'd lead you to.
It's no secret that a large percentage of the films that Hollywood turns out today are sequels to big blockbusters or remakes or adaptations of previously made films. What do you make of the state of professional filmmaking today?
I think people have always had complaints about Hollywood filmmaking and have always thought that there was some golden era, just behind us. I think the film industry is full of incredibly creative people doing their best to produce good movies. I think a couple things. One is we vote with our ticket purchases and our DVD purchases, and if you believe that you have to pay and go to, or you should pay for your films, so let me not encourage anybody not to pay for their films. But beyond that, if you believe that your film dollars are best spent at blockbuster-style entertainments, then you're going to get more blockbuster-style entertainments, and so are we all. If you spend your money at independent theaters or doing different kinds of screenings, good for you, then that can start to happen a little more, be represented a little more fully. The thing that I'm actually more interested in and concerned about in terms of filmmaking is the move to digital. And while it's great in some ways, and it certainly puts filmmaking in the hands of many, many more people, I really mourn the loss of film on film. And if you read, as I do, American Cinematographer magazine every month, there are a lot of guys in there saying, where's film? I want to shoot on film. This is what I know. This is what's most beautiful. This is what's going to last the longest. As a film historian, I'm really concerned with film preservation, and we don't have a clue what's going to happen in terms of preserving digital imagery. But we do know that film, even a film that's 115 years old, film that's 125 years old, survives if it's stored properly and can look absolutely gloriously beautiful. So I'm more concerned with that than I am with the momentary blips of Hollywood's fortunes and the kinds of movies it happens to be producing right now. You could have gone back and seen Ants in Your Pants of 1933 times 6 in 1933, 4, 5, 6. They've been doing that forever. It's show business, not show art. So, if you want it to be more artful, you must pay for the things that are more artful and speak strongly and publicly about those desires.
You spent many years working on your great biography of Gloria Swanson, a process that I'm sure included a lot of revisions and lots of outlines. What was the process like of working on a book like this that took many years to do?
Well, Gabe, you see these gray hairs? I owe some of them to Gloria Swanson and the process of writing that book, which took a lot longer than I expected it to. And you never know how long something's going to take you when you start up. I will say it was fun every single day. That was also true. Gray hair plus fun. But one of the things that I had to do that I didn't really think about having to do to produce the proposal for the book was write an outline of every chapter in the life. And each one is a mini narrative. And that was a harder job than I expected it to be, and one that paid off every single chapter. Each chapter that I came to write, that was of lasting value. So, the kind of outline, I'm not an outliner per se, but the narrative outline that I did was remarkably helpful. Also, the editing process was remarkably interesting. I learned how to take my own advice. Omit unnecessary words. I have said that to so many generations of Bowdoin students. Omit unnecessary words. I had to take my own advice and cut out a lot of manuscript, and the book was much better for it.
The process definitely paid off. We'd like to end this interview with a rapid fire, quick question round. Most treasured piece of film memorabilia?
Oh, wow. It might well be my autograph of Gloria Swanson, an autograph of Gloria Swanson that she did accompanied by a caricature of her own face.
Preferred movie star, Matthew McConaughey or Leonardo DiCaprio?
That's easy, McConaughey. Absolutely. He's having his big moment. I hope it lasts.
Best movie so far, 2014?
The Polish movie Ida, about a young nun who's hesitant about taking her final vows with very, very good reason. Best movie I've seen this year.
Professor Welsch, thank you for joining us. This has been Heart of the Matter from Bowdoin Cable Network. We'll see you next time.